All right, ladies and gentlemen, there are a few things that we are going to do to finish up your presentations on land use. The first thing is that you need to double check your slides, meaning that you are using bullet points. You're going to try to use fewer words. If I could spell fewer words. And I'm going to put this underneath here. 20 words per slide. Again, not a requirement, but a recommendation that you should look at while you're doing these things. Are you using images? Do you have an image on every single slide? Because you need to. A lot of them you should have multiple images. This is just good presenting. This is how you need to put together your presentation. Other things that people think that we should have on our slides that I'm missing? Anything? Okay. The second thing, I want you to have a rating system of some kind. When I showed you an example of Trent's presentation, he just rated them out of 10. Totally fine. Here's how I want this to go. I want you to have a ratings system slide. Meaning that after you introduce your property, after you've talked about zoning laws, I want you to have a slide that explains how you rate each of the different things that you could do with your land. Okay? If that's 1 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, or if you just do it on a scale of 10, that's fine. I would encourage you to be creative. Pick your favorite animal and make it, 4 pigs out of 10 pigs. Make it 4 cows out of 10 cows. Make it, doesn't have to be out of a certain number of things. It could be a percentage. Be creative with this thing. You don't have to be, but it's more fun if you do. Make a rating slide. Then I want another individual. After every idea. Yes. So you're going to give us a slide about how you're going to use your land for agriculture. You're going to use that slide. We're going to talk about being specific. Okay. People that want to frustrate Mr. Sheridan, ask me how many slides you have to have. It's Google Slides, people. It takes you 5 seconds to add another slide. It's not a big, there's no requirement for how many slides you have to have. I'm telling you how to get a good score here, Mason. Okay? So take the time so you're going to have a slide on what you're going to do with that land for agricultural use. You're going to spell out all the things that you think is the best way to use that land for agricultural use. Then have another slide that says, I rank this thing 2 pigs out of 5 pigs, or 10 sheep out of 10 sheep, or 100% of the best idea ever. This is exactly what I think we should do with this land, whatever it is. I want you to create, if you can click to that slide, you probably only spend about 10 seconds on that slide when you're actually presenting, but to have that information on a second thing, then you can figure out a graphic or a picture, or you can copy a clip art image of an animal, or somehow give us an idea of whether you think it's a good idea or a bad idea to use your piece of land for that particular use. Questions about that? So theoretically, to Mason's point, this might double the number of slides that you have. That's a lot.
After every single slide.
I want after every idea, if you want to do as well as you can, after every idea, you're going to put 1 slide that has a mention of your rating system for whether you think that it's a good idea or not.
And then you want us to explain why it's a good idea?
You're going to say that out loud, but your slide could simply say, could list like two reasons very quickly, and then have clip art of however many animals or a pie graph of how many percentages you think is right or whatever. Questions about this?
No.
Again, I'm giving you 2 full days of class time to do this, folks. You've got time to do this. This will not take you as much time as your glazed over eyes make it look like it's going to. This is not that big a deal. It will take you a minute per slide to do this. It's not that big a thing, but it will make your presentation better. It will make it more clear about whether you think that that's a good use for your land or not. Be specific about your slides. Don't just list. Don't list all possible ideas. Be thorough. That's not right. About specifics. Meaning, when we're talking about, I keep coming back to agriculture, but let's talk timber, okay? Don't tell me that you could put a Christmas tree farm on your land, and you could plant trees, and you could, let a forest grow, and you could do this. Tell me what you think the best way to, what's the best thing to do with that land? What makes the most sense for your piece of land, based on its zoning laws, based on the amount of acres that you have, based on the area of the country that it's in. There is the best way to use that land for that specific area. Be specific, come up with one thing, maybe 2, that you want to do with that land, and be specific about it. Okay, last one. At the very end, I want you to make a decision. If this was your ground, if you owned it, you spent your hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands or whatever, however many dollars it takes to buy this piece of land, what would you do with it? What, after evaluating all 9 of these things, there are 9 different areas that we are going to explore. I want you to decide what the best thing to do with that land is. Do you leave it fallow and just take a check from the government? Do you rent it to a farmer? Do you develop it? Do you build houses on it? Is that the best way to make money? That's the sort of thing I'm looking for. I want you to create a slide at the end that tells us what your decision is about what you should do with it. It doesn't necessarily have to be the thing that's going to make you the most money. It might be the thing that you enjoy the most, that you're going to get the most pleasure out of. You decide what you think is the best thing to do with that piece of ground. All right, questions about what I'm asking? This is kind of, now that you have all this data in here, this is how I want you to kind of polish it and make sure that everything is just so. Questions before we get started? Yes, Anna.
So at the end of each slide, we have to put the rating.
It's not at the end of each slide. I want you to make a separate slide. I want you to create a slide after each idea that tells us very briefly how you rated that idea and why. Doesn't have to be super detailed, but you do need to tell us why you rated it that way. Other questions? All right.